This is as groovy as it gets.
Oprah, Can You Hear Me? Oprah vs. Donald 2020 is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and a production of EI Alliance, copyright 2019. America is courtesy of New Threads off their new album, Felonious Wilma. Hi, this is Julie, and I am here with Susan. We are actually going to read an excerpt from Donald J. Trump. Do you stand with him? Who does he stand with? The Science and Energy Behind Trump. And this is a book we wrote a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was actually published April
2016. And it was before Mr. Donald Trump became president.
Right, April before the November election.
Right, exactly.
That same year.
And it talks about 12 science principles, and you can read some of our early podcasts in this series to find out more in depth. But at this point in time, and where politics is, and I say politics lightly because, who wants to name something? I took our number 10, and we're talking about our number 10 principle. Physics challenges that when you observe something like a stone, for example, you are observing the effects of the stone upon yourself. And I'm actually going to read the first paragraph because it's awesome for what's going on today.
Yep.
Here's an observation. Think of politicians as traveling in a boat along the ocean of American people. This boat is exclusive and the average American is not invited. People watch the political process through the media, much like a streaming episode of The Love Boat, Season 7, when ratings begin to sink. Like the cast, politicians stay in the boat because of the political correctness they are required to live with, while the American people remain outsiders drowning in the tepid water.
Is that the end?
Yes, that's the end of that paragraph. There's a few paragraphs more, and actually for the whole chapter, that are pretty intense about the situation.
So it was funny because we started talking about a boat, and I was thinking about some of our podcasts, and I was thinking about Trump, and a lot of the podcasts were talking about Oprah, and it was interesting to me, I don't want to say manipulation, but the fact that all Trump had to do is not be on that same boat with the other politicians.
Right.
I mean. So the fact that he's not a politician, because the rest of us all feel like here's the career politicians, they take care of themselves, it's the same rhetoric. I mean, I can use even the buzzwords that we hear all the time, polls, yada, 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 whatever. They are really on an island unto themselves, trying to tell us how we're going to fix things for you, and they're not even one of us. And
right.
Just the fact that Trump stood up and said, I'm not on that same boat.
Right.
And with all his issues, I mean, let's not fool ourselves. Trump's not on our boat. He's in his own boat. But just the fact that he's not with them, he scored so many votes. He already brought so many people that quietly voted for him. And yes, he did not win the popular vote, but you know what? He won the presidency, which goes into the whole energy of what we've been talking and how these principles come into play. And so, it's kind of interesting that, that reinforces exactly what we talk about in the book. I mean, he won, and he didn't win the popular vote, but he won. And therefore, it's what every other person talks about when they talk about energy and things happen. It's a miracle. They don't know how. I mean, we talk about energy principles about you don't know how something's going to happen, but yet it does.
Right.
He's a great example, and that's why this book was so awesome to put together. But in doing that, he actually changed the whole definition of the presidency, which we talked about, and I'm not going to rehash that, except that what's important to say, I think, is that if someone is going to run for president, if you are a, quote, career politician, you already got a strike against you.
Right. And that's almost like the phrase or the statement that no one will say. If you're a career politician, exactly what you just said, you got a strike against you. And no one will say he won basically because he wasn't a career politician.
And to add to that, even all these things that people have said about him, whether you like him or not, because we don't get into that. We're not going to sit and talk about what we like about him or what we don't like about him, because that's actually irrelevant. It's the energy that we're going to discuss.
Right.
And it's fascinating that just I mean, that's such a powerful statement. Just the fact that he is not one of them, he got so many votes and he got in, despite the womanizing accusations and all the other things that people brought up.
Right.
Just imagine if someone stepped into the arena and said, hey, I'm not a career politician, but I'm, like Trump, very confident in who I am. I know who I am, but I don't have anything I have to prove, and I don't have to beat on people to get it.
Right.
It's a shoo-in.
Right. And even if their background and who they are and what they do is in business, or, we've even said whatever position they do in life or have done, I mean, from a cashier to anybody.
Right.
I mean, everyone's been a cashier, however. And, you could say that. People are familiar with that. And, the stigma of being a career politician, I mean, almost no one wants to admit that.
It's going.
Because that would wipe away everybody in Washington.
Right.
They're all, quote-unquote, career politicians.
Right.
Which is, to me, an insane description of a position. Because really, as a politician, I mean, I'm not big for history, but, if you go way back... what was Washington and what was politics, quote unquote? What was all that?
It was the one that led
supposed
naturally.
to do
They were a
for the people.
Leader. I mean, George Washington was the natural leader,
right.
which of course, so he became the first president.
Right.
We don't have that today.
Right.
Who's our leader? I mean, you can look at. I mean, really, who's the leader?
That's funny. If aliens come, take me to your leader. Oprah, Donald.
The aliens would laugh.
Yeah,
they
so
sit
they
there and say, "Really?"
I have to say, driving home last night, I turned on one of the talk radios because my antenna wasn't working, and someone was on there talking about how, and he actually works where President Trump went the other day for the wall, and he works in that environment, and he's with the military, and he said, we've never had a person come in and understand what's going on. We've never had a person come in and see it from what's occurring. And it was odd because he started to give these numerics of how many porta potties there were and how many showers for the people that worked there, which I can't remember, but it was a minuscule amount versus how many people were there. And of all the politicians and all the career politicians and everyone who's been there, who's seen it before, nobody got it. He said President Trump came in and completely understood where we were coming from.
So you know where I'm going to go to, because when I was thinking about a career politician, there's like political science majors. A lot of people who go into traditional politics usually have a history background or a political science background, which is really all based on being the expert in just systems.
Right.
Right. And for somebody to think, I mean, you got to be able to think to walk in and do like what he did. And that goes for foreign policy. It goes for military, defense. It goes, I mean, it deals with education. It does with, you get finances, economics, and you bring in the right people. So you don't have to, you have to know all of those things. You just got to be able to think.
Right. Right.
And politicians, I'm going to use the word, and this is where I was leading to, you didn't know, they're the, quote, experts. Because we know historically this is what we do, so this is how we do it.
Right.
That's what they can, and they bank on that. Experts say this is historically what we do, and that's it. And I have said historically that experts are not thinkers. They will tell you this is what we've done in the past, and this is what the results were. But they don't, most of them that I see don't think. They can't say, all right, what are we going to do? And really, as a president, that's what you need to be able to do, is to think, to go in. And, Trump at least has that going for him, because he doesn't have just, this is what history says, this is what we do, and this is how we act, and this is what we say, and blah, 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 blah. That's the same old, that people are bored. It's boring.
Right.
Nothing changes, and guess what? Life is changing.
Right.
Things are moving.
It's funny. We also, we've talked about another podcast, mind and energy, and what your mind does. And anybody can just think, And if you get stuck in, kind of the same routine every day and you start thinking the same thoughts and you're structured in that, you're not thinking differently.
No.
If you can openly go into a situation and be open to thinking differently, that's a huge benefit.
I
mean, hello, you start to see things, and in our book we describe that from the different principles.
Yes.
And you start to see things, and you start to become aware of things, and you're open to what's occurring more so than, well, this is what's occurred, exactly what you said. More so than going back into, the history of it and what's occurred. I mean, that's also not staying present.
Exactly, which is what we talked about, what he did. This was all presented to us during the debates. When, when he said, and I keep going to it, when he said to Jeb Bush, low energy, he had no response.
Right.
Because what is the politically correct way to answer that? He hadn't been prepped in that, so he didn't know what to say. I mean, and that's and I don't mean to be mean to, but I don't want to bully. I don't like the idea of bullying.
Yeah.
And there is bullying in that, and but if you get out of the bullying and you look at the energy behind it, who's present and who's just doing what is told. If someone says this, we say this. When this occurs, we do this. When something occurs, when you can think and say, I'm going to do this differently, not because I'm making a name for myself, but because this is a new situation. It needs to be handled differently. I mean, I know I'm going off on a tangent a little, but, we didn't have all the terrorism that we now live in. And then in the school shootings today, I'm always amazed when, you look up and we've had so many in 6 months. And I'm thinking, and no one's doing anything about it. And it's like, we can't keep saying the same thing.
Right.
Because, I mean, my kids are out of school, but I'm going to, have grandchildren. And even beside my own kids, no kid should be going to school with that. I used to get upset when I'd see a kid go and they were getting bullied.
Right.
Because I used to say, adults get bullied. Guess what? We have laws. You can go and get a restraining order. You can file assault charges. Kids don't have that. And now when I think about it, they got to go to school and worry. And it's commonplace today.
Right.
We hear it. Oh, it's on the TV. We feel bad. But that's the end of it. It's like because no one knows what to do, because what have we done in the past? Oh, I don't know. It's like, no, you got to look at this. What are we going to do?
Right. Right.
And I have thoughts about what I would do, but I'm just one person again. And what I would do is secondary to what we're really talking about.
Right.
We're talking about someone going in saying, this isn't working. Okay, so gun law, so you go to the gun laws. The gun, it's not going to change. So you have to approach it differently. You can't say, oh, we're going to go and try to pass these new gun laws. Hasn't worked.
Right.
Yet they keep going to that. That's not the answer.
Right.
And I just think that someone who can think, and we started talking about the average person.
Right.
The average person who's out there, and that's why we were joking, and we were thinking, like, who's the average person? And you perfectly said.
I said, it would be great, if how about and I don't want to say just a cashier, but a cashier. I mean, you're looking at now the person who's a president was a businessman.
Right.
He's a businessman. He makes deals. So from a grand level, and they have to investigate what deals did he make with different countries and different leaders and blah, blah, blah. But a cashier has to make deals too. A cashier takes responsibility.
But you know what I just thought of?
What?
Because this is huge too. Because what I used to always hear is when people would say, I would never run for president, because who wants to go through all the background and the beating up that everybody does? But he just proved to us with this whole Mueller thing.
And not just Mueller, the taxes are up again. And his lawyers saying, no, they're going to take it to the Supreme Court. And it's so funny, and this isn't funny, but it's like, hello, it's insane because he's already president. And so it's like going into the past instead of staying present. And so we had said this in some of our earlier podcasts for, Oprah, because this is our Oprah versus Donald series, that Oprah, you got it made to just walk in and turn around and say, I'm Oprah. We want to see your taxes. Well, now you got past history if you want to take it like that. President Trump didn't
Right.
show his taxes.
And
He didn't get rid of his property. He didn't get rid of his finances. He didn't do all the things that were required by every other president.
and all the things that they came back at him for, because I mean, I don't go into his past. I don't know his historical dealings or anything, but from what you hear on the quote fake news is that he's got all this garbage from his past that they could bring in, and yet he's still president.
Right.
He's doing what he wants,
Right.
and he could care less.
Right.
And it's actually interesting.
And to hear, so where I go, you go specifically into the stuff going on today, and I go into the quote unquote fake news and the media that comes out, and the people that have $1 million a year
Right.
jobs
I was thinking the same
talking about the same issues, taxes, Mueller, Russia. And then I hear this guy on a local talk radio show saying he was in the military, he was there, and President Trump came in and he could see things differently. And it really made everybody not just feel better. I mean, it's exactly what we said about the boat here.
Yeah.
It made people like, okay, he kind of gets something here. He's trying to do something for us. He's not a career politician that's stuck in all the muck and mire of and everything, red tape and all that.
This is what we were talking about back in April. And I just got that feeling again when we sat down and we looked at each other and we're like, he's going to win.
Yeah, back in April of 2016.
We knew.
Yep. And we knew the energy.
And then
we got it right away.
Everything occurred.
Right.
But you know what the feeling I get is somebody who can step in that space. And you can't, I'm going to keep this so it's not non-explicit, the BS.
Right.
They're not, because people can see through it. And I keep saying this. It's what do you call it? Elizabeth Warren saying, "Oh, let's have a beer together." Come on. Come on.
You know what's interesting about this too is that someone that can, I know, I'm kind of, you know what's interesting about this too is that someone to come up at the same, we talked about playing tennis, golf, whatever, you want someone a little bit more of a angle aptitude that's a little to your level to come up and challenge him will bring his game up.
Yes.
So even if we've said are we boring you, Mr. Trump? We've had these different podcasts where the regular average ordinary person out there gets a lot of stuff about this and can see it.
Right.
We don't have a news program at night to talk about quote unquote the Russians yet and make a few $1 million a year off of the same story every night. I digress. Yet you look at this and it would be cool to we're excited to have a challenging
that's what you want.
opponent up there for him to have him raise his game.
Yes.
And to really be on the par where it's not like, oh, I'm not really sure I could do it. Ugh. And, there's a lot of pre-stuff I have to do. And there's sure, right. It's the presidency. Yet, I have to say, it's kind of, just look at how he's kind of made it. I don't want to say he's made it look like it's kind of sort of easy. I don't mean it in that way. There's a lot of issues to deal with. Yet, he's doing something because he's still there.
It's funny because we all, everybody says this, and you could see it with Clinton and with Bush, and certainly with Obama because he was young. That they come in and they're very young, and they leave. They look so old. They say that about every president, and I'm not. I don't really watch, but the sense I get is he's kind of still just doing his own thing. He's not. Yep. He's not being affected as much. Mm-hmm. Again, we don't know him, and yet it's just kind of funny because he's just doing his own thing. I think now I'm going to be a little personal. I think there are issues that need to be cleaned up.
Yes, I agree.
As most people do. Mm-hmm. Of course, my biggest thing is terrorism, is school shootings, is bullying, is a lot of this garbage. Which I got to tell you, Oprah, I'm glad you're an Apple girl. But what is that about? That was not very inclusive of everyone. That was the most ignoramus statement I saw. You were on with your little Apple Watch, and here's you, and I'm not going to go into it, and you're all kind of ha ha ha. Look at us, and I'm thinking, That's what's that? That's it. And most just insecure. It's such an insecure issue. And that's all I'm going to say about it. That said, you need somebody who can step up and go beyond that and say, listen, I get it. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I just need to be who I am. And Trump, whether he does or not, he gives you that feeling that that's what he's doing. And every other politician gives you the sense, I'm generalizing, and I know you should never, but a lot of them give the sense of, I'm part of the club. I can do this. I'm part of the club. And it's like, and people are kind of sick of it. And to the point where they will vote for Trump just because he's not them. Right. Even though he's not doing...
And he's actually the only... when you hear the landscape... God, I hate that terminology. The landscape of, politicians throwing their hat in the ring, and you look at the pictures and they're all politicians. Yes. They're all career politicians. Yeah. They're all vested in being a career politician in the system.
And maintaining the system.
Yes.
But the system... And so this is what because I keep going into it, the system is broke. When you see what's going on, again, I just think of the children. If we can't take care of our number one resource of kids, and we can't because of obviously the school shootings, but also when you talk about bullying, which is detrimental to their growth, we as adults can't even step up and not bully. We bully each other. And that's what that whole thing with Oprah was, in a very indiscreet way. That was bullying. Or her reaction, or the whole thing smelled of bullies. And if we as adults can't be a role model for kids, like, no, you don't bully. You stand up for yourself always. And you don't but you don't bully. And if the people that are in Washington just want to maintain the way things are, people are getting tired of it. And we need someone that can step up and do that.
And someone that's, as Donald Trump has proved, irregardless of what he's done or not done, he's not a career politician.
No.
And guess what? He's still there.
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts, along with our Donald Trump and Oprah books for this series. Find great music by New Threads on iTunes, Spotify, and on newthreads.us.